So for our first lesson of 2021, we are going to look at a concept that is very unique to America called principles and ideals. Okay, so principles and ideals are actually words that you know very well. You just haven't ever heard them called principles and ideals. Okay, so today we're going to start using these fancy vocabulary words to describe certain concepts that you already know, like freedom and choices and fairness and equality. These are all principles and ideals that you guys know, but we're just going to use a fancy new word for them. Okay. Today's going to be very vocabulary heavy. And as we're learning these vocabulary words, you are going to be expected to use these words in sentences throughout our unit. Okay. We'll review these words several times this week to get them familiar with you. But just like in the past, these are going to have some motions with them. So we're going to learn these vocabulary words and these motions together, and then we'll use them to have some conversations about different inequalities and injustices that we've seen in our world. Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen, and I want to share this one. Okay, are you guys seeing the success criteria right now?
Yes.
Good. Okay, awesome. So let me try to get this set up again. Good. Awesome. Now remember, I do not have the ability to see all of you at once like I do when I have my big old screen at school. So make sure if you need me or if you have a question, use that hand emoji, because I will not necessarily see you with you just sitting there like this. Okay, so use that hand emoji if you have a question or if you'd like to say something during this. All right. Okay, now let's test to make sure sound is shared. Tell me if you can hear this.
We're beginning. Yes. I can hear it, but it's quiet.
You can hear it, it's quiet. Let's do something about that. Here. And see if that goes up. There we go. Okay, volume is up. All right, so this is our success criteria. This is our goal for our new writing unit. Okay, and here we go.
We're beginning to study a new topic, social studies.
Ooh, no, that's interesting. I can't click over here without unclicking that.
Our target is to identify and know the significance.
Oh, that's going to be a problem.
Still kind of quiet for me.
Principles and ideals. In order to we need to begin by learning some important vocabulary words. In the following slides, you will learn a few of the words today and practice motions with the definitions.
Alrighty, so our vocabulary words that we're going to take a look at today, there are 7 of them. The first one is going to be government. Let's listen to Miss Renee and watch her movements, and then we will practice the movements together.
Government. Government is the system and people who make the rules in a community.
Let's try it again.
Government. Government is the system and people who make the rules in a community.
So some of those motions are familiar. Remember, we've made people before, and we've talked about a community before. So we're going to add system, and we're going to add rules, kind of like a mom saying, you can't do that. Okay, so shaking that finger. Let's try this one together. I want to see you moving on camera.
Government. Government is the system and people who make the rules in a community.
Alrighty, so government is not just a place that people work, it is also the people who work there. We elect our government and those officials. Listen again.
Government. Government is the system and people who make the rules in a community.
Alrighty, so remember, the government makes laws that keep people safe. Alrighty, this is one of the functions of our government. Next word is rights. Now again, this is a word that you guys are familiar with. You guys know that you have certain rights. You just might not have called them rights, okay? You might have used words like fair and said, that's not fair, because you feel that you should also get something. You feel that you have a right to it. We're going to talk about rights as they are defined in America with this conversation.
Rights. Rights are the opportunities everyone has.
Alrighty, let's try it again.
Rights. Rights are the opportunities everyone has.
Okay, so here are some rights that you have. Students have rights like food. You guys have a right to a lunch and a breakfast at Indian Creek if you want it. You also have a right to a teacher who teaches you. That means you have an opportunity to work with a teacher who wants to teach you. You also have the right to your own workspace. So when you are in the physical building at school, you have an opportunity to have your own space, which is typically a desk, okay? So rights are opportunities that everyone has. Let's review those motions.
Rights. Rights are the opportunities everyone has.
Okay. We're going to talk about some more rights as defined by our American culture as we move forward throughout this unit. But I wanted to start off with you looking at the rights that you know about in your life right now. Next up, equality.
Equality. Equality is when everyone is the same.
So you'll notice that Miss Renee's hands are on the same level, okay? Somebody doesn't get to be higher or lesser than the other. They're on the same level. Let's try that one together.
Equality. Equality is when everyone is treated the same.
Okay, so it's everybody. Everyone is treated the same.
Equality. Equality is when everyone is treated the same.
So there was equality at the party when everyone had 5 pieces of candy. That is equal. Everyone got the same amount. Okay, equality. Let's take a look at principles. Now, this is not the kind of principle that Mr. Principal Kemper, that's hard to say. This is not the principle that Mr. Kemper is, okay? Principles are?
Principles. Principles are the basic ideas or beliefs.
So just like we have 2 different kinds of right. You can be right, like you got the answer correct, or you can write like on a piece of paper. There are also 2 kinds of principles. There's the principle like Mr. Kemper, and then there's principles that are ideas and beliefs, okay? So if you are an Indian Creek student, one of the principles that we have is that you should be kind to others. We use Tim, we use Sam, we show respectful responses, we're being kind. So that is a principle because it's an idea and a belief that we have. Okay, so just like there's 2 kinds of right, being correct or writing on paper, there are also 2 kinds of principles. There's a person that has a job like Mr. Kemper, or there are beliefs and ideas. Let's try these motions together.
Principles. Principles are the basic ideas or beliefs.
Okay, so here we see Devante, and he understands the principle that you should be kind to others. Kindness matters, and there's a nice heart here to give us that reminder. So principles are ideas or beliefs. Okay, we'll talk about some different principles of people in our community. Next up, fundamentals. Now this is probably a word that William could teach us about all day long. fundamentals, the fundamentals of sports, right? The fundamentals. These are the basic rules.
Fundamentals. Fundamentals are the basic rules.
So we saw that motion earlier with rules that are established by our government. Here it is again.
Fundamentals. Fundamentals are the basic rules.
Okay. Anything can have fundamentals that requires rules. For example, the fundamentals of Gaga ball are you have to hit the ball with your hand and you are out if the ball hits your leg. Okay, those are basic rules. So Gaga ball has fundamentals. Our class has fundamentals. We went over them earlier with the Zoom rules. So fundamentals are the basic rules. Okay, so it's just kind of what you're going to generically tell somebody when they're trying to learn something.
Fundamentals. Fundamentals are the basic rules.
Christopher, did you have something to add?
You add two rules. In Gaga ball, if the ball hits over your knee, it doesn't count.
That's another fundamental. Yes, thank you for pointing that out. It's another fundamental for us to be aware of. Thank you. So, oh, I forgot, there were not 7. So those were our 5 vocabulary words. We're going to use these vocabulary words today: government, rights, equality, principles, and fundamentals, to have a conversation about a young lady that you already know a lot about. And that young lady's name is Rosa Parks. We're going to study about Rosa Parks today, and then we are going to answer some questions verbally in a discussion. That discussion will take place with me and will also take place inside of your breakout rooms, okay? So you're going to be answering, what rights did Rosa Parks want? How was the government involved in Rosa Parks' story? What is one way the African American community did not experience equality? And what principles did Rosa Parks believe in? What fundamental rights do you all feel all people deserve? Okay, so we're going to take a look today at a text. You have this text available to you, so I would like for you to go to your Seesaw and click on your activities, please. You're going to see one called Understanding Principles and Ideals. Now, I do not want you to click on Add Response. That's not where the story that we're going to read is. The story that we're going to read is right here in the corner. It says 1/9. Okay? So if you added a response, that's okay. Go ahead and save it as a draft. You'll come back to it later. But right now, I want you to go click up here in this corner at Understanding Principles and Ideals, because you're going to come up with the text that we're going to read together. When you click in that corner, they're going to skip through the vocabulary slides. You're going to land on slide 7, and that has the text that we're going to read called Rosa Parks and Cesar Chavez. We're going to read about Cesar Chavez later. We're going to read about Rosa Parks first. So again, if you're stuck, I'm going to show you. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Let me turn this off really quick. Okay, good, I did. All right. If you are stuck, again, you're going to go to Activities on Seesaw. You are going to click on the corner right here where it says 1/9, Understanding Principles and Ideals. And then go ahead and go to slide 7. And that has our text for the day that says, read the text as a class. Okay. Rosa Parks and Cesar Chavez. That's what we're going to look at today. Anton, I went ahead and blocked that for you so you can stay focused on what we're doing on Seesaw. Alrighty, awesome. Come back to see you people. Good, I can see you. Okay. So we're going to look at this text. I'm going to use my mouse to show where we are. I'd like for you to follow along on your screen. So you don't have to be looking at mine. You can look at yours as well. This is called Rosa Parks and Cesar Chavez. Many Americans have worked hard to make sure that all citizens have the same rights. Rosa Parks and Cesar Chavez were leaders in the fight for rights for all. Okay, so we know that these are going to be citizens, we've talked about that are going to fight for rights. And we know that rights are opportunities that everyone should have. Let's listen and read along with me. Rosa Parks, it is my right to sit anywhere. After the Civil War, Jim Crow laws kept African Americans from enjoying all their rights. Public places were often segregated. For example, at the movies, whites could sit downstairs. African Americans had to sit in the balcony. African Americans could not swim in the same pools or go to the same schools as whites. In many places, African Americans were also kept from voting. Voting, that's something that we learned about when we read Grandfather's Story about voting. Rosa Parks, an African American, twice tried to register to vote in Alabama. She had the right to vote, but was turned down both times. Together with many others, Rosa Parks worked to change Jim Crow and other unfair laws. That was a lot of information, and there was a lot that we learned or were reminded of there that I'd like for you to have a quick conversation about. So my question to you is, what do you think about what you just heard? And remember, you have the text in front of you if you would like to go back and think about it again. But my question to you is, what do you think about what you just heard about African American rights and about Rosa Parks' treatment? I'm going to open up those rooms for conversation, and you are answering the question, what do you think about what you just heard? Make a few changes here really quick. There we go, beautiful. Okay, what do you think about what you just heard? And go. My question to you was, what did you think about some of the information that you learned or were reminded of? What were your thoughts about what we read? I would be interested to hear from some of you. Josh, what are your thoughts about what we just read?
That I don't know why they didn't like let blacks do sit in the bottom row during movies or swim in the same pool as whites.
So your thought was a question. Why was this the case? Why did people believe this? Why did they act this way? It's a great question, Josh. Thank you for sharing that with us. What other thoughts did we have regarding the information that we just read? Thoughts, or as Josh just pointed out, questions? Oof. First Monday after break, y'all are going to go for some random calls. All right, we'll go for it. What did you think about the information that you just heard? Senkyu, talk with us. What did you think about the information you heard?
Well, I think that after Rosa Parks got the vote, I think everything changed after.
So you're kind of connecting to what you know about history later on, and you're hopeful that there's going to be some change. So this was something that was happening, and you feel that it has changed now. Okay, so you know that there's some history coming up. Aiden G, in the chat, you said that it was not fair. I am assuming that you are talking about equality. Can you say more about that? You said it's not fair. What do we know about equality?
is because that she wanted to do what she wanted, and the African Americans did not. So it was not fair and equal.
Yeah, so that word equality, I heard you say that she wanted to do what she wanted to because other people could do it. So that was not an equal treatment. The fundamentals were different for different groups of people inside of the country. All right, thank you for sharing. We're going to continue on. We are at the top of this next page where it says on December 1st. So over here on the right-hand side on December 1st, that's what we're going to read. Again, I will show with my mouse where we are. I'd like for you to be looking at your own screen and following along with the reading, okay? On December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks boarded a city bus in Montgomery, Alabama. She was going home from work. The first seats of the bus were for white passengers only. Rosa Parks sat behind those seats in a seat for African Americans. Soon the bus was full. A white man got on. The bus driver told Rosa Parks to give her seat to the man. She politely refused to move, so the bus driver called the police. Rosa Parks let herself be arrested because she wanted to show people how unfair Jim Crow laws were. People thought it was unfair that Parks was arrested, so they protested against the bus company. The protest went on for 13 months. As a result, the laws were changed. Go ahead and click on that next page over. We're going to finish up this text by reading this last paragraph. In her autobiography, Parks wrote, "I had no idea when I refused to give up my seat on that Montgomery bus that my small action would help put into the segregation laws in the South. I only knew that I was tired of being pushed around. I was a regular person just as good as anybody else." Was a regular person just as good as anybody else. So it's interesting to me that Rosa Parks classified her choice that day as a small action. It was a very small action, she said. It was something that she just did in a moment, but that action certainly had huge consequences of change for large communities of people. You will notice at the top that there is a timeline of Rosa Parks' life. Her life began in 1913 and her life ended in 2005. In between where these dots are, you can read about all of the different significant events or important events that took place in her life, okay? This might be helpful to you in the conversation. Alrighty, as I shared with you, you are going to understand and use academic vocabulary. Government, rights, equality, principles, fundamentals are words that we learned today. We'll look at these last four later, but today we're going to talk about these five: government, rights, equality, principles, and fundamentals. You are going to be answering questions to show you understand the text. Before we answer these questions, I want to review those words again. So we're going to go through each word once, and I want you up top, sitting tall, ready to do the motion. So we got these fresh in our brain, okay? Here we go. Each word one time through.
Government. Government is the system and people who make the rules in a community.
That's our longest one. Next up, we have rights.
Rights. Rights are the opportunities everyone has.
So remember, you guys as students of Indian Creek have a right to food, a teacher, and your own workspace. Those are the opportunities you have. Take a look at equality.
Equality is when everyone is treated the same.
So we learned about some equalities that were gained by Rosa Parks because of some inequalities, or some ways that people were not treated the same. Take a look at principles.
Principles. Principles are the basic ideas or beliefs.
So remember, this is not the principle like Principal Kemper. Just like there are two kinds of right, being correct or writing on paper, there are also two kinds of principles. There's the job, and then there are ideas and beliefs, okay? We're talking about ideas and beliefs. So I would say that a principle that Rosa Parks believed in was equality. She believed that people should be treated the same, just like her statement, I'm just as good as anybody else. So her principle that she believed in was equality. Let's take a look at our last one.
Fundamentals. Fundamentals are the basic rules.
And Christopher reminded us earlier of a fundamental we left out for Gaga Ball, but these are the basic rules often that a community will work by, okay? First question that we're going to look at, what right did Rosa Parks want? What right did she want? I have a feeling I don't have to send you to some breakout rooms for this one. Let's talk about this one. What right did Rosa Parks want? What did she want when she made that small action choice, as she said that day? What right did she want for everyone? Braden, what did Rosa Parks want? What right did she want?
Rosa Parks wanted her seat because it was not fair for African Americans to sit in the back, or because it was not fair because everyone else could have went in the front, but Rosa Parks wanted to sit in the front, but they didn't allow it.
Okay, so Braden, you gave us a wonderful example of one of the rights that she wanted. That example is of a larger picture. Rosa Parks wanted what she said right here. I was tired of being pushed around. I was a regular person, just as good as anybody else. And as Braden pointed out, that means I'm a regular person as good as anybody else to sit where I want on the bus, right? That was a small example of a larger picture. She wanted equal treatment for African Americans and for all people, okay? So we see here that it says that they had to sit at different places in the movie theater. They couldn't swim in the same pools. They couldn't go to the same schools. A lot of times they had rules that kept them from voting. And Rosa Parks said, this is enough. A right that I have is the same opportunity as every other person, okay? So great example, Braden, of the right that she believed in. Second question, how was the government involved in Rosa Parks' story? How was the government involved in Rosa Parks' story? There's two ways that I can think of that they were involved. What do you guys think? How was the government involved in Rosa Parks' story? Aiden G?
So the government is involved in the story because that she wanted to do whatever she wanted, but the government did not, because the police work for the government.
Okay, so there were some police involvement in this. Yep, we see right here that she was arrested. And also we see that, like you said, she wanted to be able to do things that other people could do. And Aiden G, I would agree with you that it was the government that had made those laws. It says right here, Jim Crow laws kept African Americans from enjoying their rights. So the government set up rules that said, no, African Americans don't get the same treatment as other groups of people, as white people predominantly. Okay, so there was involvement here. We also see some involvement at the end when, as Sin Q pointed out, there is some hope for us, right? She said she had no idea that her small action would put an end to segregation laws. So segregation segregation laws came to an end, that also means what, Sin-Q? What did the government end up deciding?
He ended up deciding to change the laws and have black people and white people be together and stuff.
They did. They ended up changing those laws. So Sin-Q, thank you for pointing that out earlier, that hope that we had. And as we just saw, the reason that the government changed those laws is not because they woke up one day and said, I'm going to make a change. Okay? They changed these laws because people like Rosa Parks stood up for the principles that they believed in. Okay, Rosa Parks believed in the principle, this has got to change. I am just as good as anybody else. I should have the same rights and freedoms. And so they protested and made their voice known long enough that the government said, okay, we've got to give the people what they want. I'm going to send you to some breakout rooms for this conversation. What is one way the African American community did not experience equality? So remember, equality is when we have the same opportunities and treatment. What is one way they did not experience equality? How were things not equal for them? I'm going to send you to those breakout rooms, and I want you to answer that question. What is one way the African American community did not experience equality? I want to hear your answer to that question. What is one way the African American community did not experience equality? How did they not experience equality? What were some struggles that they had? What were some ways that they were treated? Terrence, what about the African American community was not equal?
Because they did not let people sit on the bus, or whites had more things to do than blacks. Like if there was a whole black bus, then whites would still get to take the whole bus.
Yeah, so that was an important factor of it. You gave a great example about the bus, and you also talked about how the white community had more opportunities. That was not equal, right? They had more things to do, as you said, different activities. Thank you for sharing. What more? What is another way that the African American community did not experience equality? Did not experience equality. Another way that they were not equal. Braden.
The black people really got nothing because white people got more stuff to do. Like for example, they could like take the front seats, but that was not equal for the black people because black people sit in the back. So they really didn't see that much when they were growing up.
Yeah, so they had preferential treatment. So I like what you said, like that might have limited vision, and also it made an inconvenience because now, like a lot of kids think it's cool to sit in the back of the bus, but when you're working a job or when you're trying to pick a kid up from a daycare situation or when you have a meeting you want to go to, you want to be in the front of the bus because you can get on and off quick, right? You don't have to say, excuse me, and get by a bunch of people. So this wasn't just they decided, oh, whites can be in the front. That's cool. It was a better seat, all right? It was more convenient. So they had better opportunities in front of them as well, okay? So remember, just like that article showed us, it wasn't just bus seats. One thing that we tend to do, we focus on the really famous examples, and that's okay because they're great examples, but there were a lot of other things going on as well. And you're going to discover some of those other inequalities and some of those injustices that were inside of this time period as well, okay? So I'm going to share my screen, and I want to go over this assignment expectation with you. So you are going to click out of the instructional slides, and I'm going to read these directions. It says independently, on slide 3, complete the Brain Pop Junior video and easy quiz. On slides 4 through 8, drag the correct vocabulary word into the sentence. On slide 9, reflect on your understanding of today's vocabulary. So when you click on Add Response, you are going to see that you have 9 slides, okay? The first slide is going to be, as we just read, our article, Okay, that's also the second slide. So if you want to go back in the text and be reminded, or if you wanted to investigate that timeline that we talked about, you can do that here. On slide 3, there is a link. You are going to watch the Rights and Responsibilities Brain Pop, and you're going to take the easy quiz. This is going to give you some more practice with our vocabulary. Remember, if this link doesn't work, you might have to go to Brain Pop through Clever and type in the top rights and responsibilities. Okay, so please don't send me a message saying the Brain Pop's not working. I guess I won't do it. You have the opportunity to go to your Brain Pop through Clever and then to just type it in the same way that I just did. Okay, so that's what you're going to do there. Watch the video, take the easy quiz. Then on slides 4 through 8, there are vocabulary words down here. You are going to read the sentence and you are going to find the word that goes in the box. Okay, and you're going to put that word in the box. You're noticing that this is behind it. So if you find the right word, you might have to click on the order and bring it to the front. And then when you drag it, you'll be able to put it where it belongs. Okay, so you're going to look at these words and drag them. You also have a video here that will read the sentence to you if you are struggling to read it. On slide 9, you have been asked to click and drag the emoji that best describes your ability to use the oh, that's weird. Oh, well, I guess you can't drag the emoji, so let's do this. Let's go ahead and use the drawing tool to tell which emoji you are connecting to your vocabulary. And remember, when you are giving that explanation, you are not going to say, I feel like this because it's easy. You're going to tell me what about these words you understand. Okay, so what part of these words makes sense to you? What did you connect with in your history lesson? Okay, so again, your instructions are right here. You can click on them, you can play them and listen to them. And you're going to complete this assignment as soon as you are done with your break. Okay? Before you go, let's go over our schedule because it's been a bit since we've been here. We have just finished our Zoom ELA lesson. You are getting ready to go on your break. At 10 o'clock, you will be right back to working on your Seesaw assignment. If you get done with Seesaw, you are going to work on Lexia or Mayan. Okay? At 10:45, you have your lunch and your recess, and I will see everybody back at 12 o'clock for STEM time. Okay? So again, take your break, get ready to go on to Seesaw and complete that assignment. All right.